The Fearless Podcast, in a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Fearless Podcast. This is episode 40. And today I am super pumped because I have an awesome guest that I want to introduce to y'all. Many of y'all probably know him or will recognize him, but it is Colby from the Max. And
hey, man. Yeah,
we have been back and forth and trying to make this work. And we both got a lot of kids and we're kind of hectic and doing all the things and all the stuff and trying to make that happen. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for investing your time here. And Colby, what I wanted to do is maybe like get a little understanding of your origin story. One, because I'm not really familiar with it. We got to indirectly meet y'all at the Oklahoma Homestead meetup maybe a couple years ago. And I think you guys are going to be back again there this year.
we are. We're actually fixing to head out probably in the next few days. I'm going to spend some time up there. We're going to go to Baker Creek and then make our way back to Oklahoma. But yeah, man, we've been married for since '06. My wife and I. My wife's name is Misty. My wife is a nurse, and that's what she did. That's what she went to school for. I worked at a family business in my town. We were just growing up trying to make money and do things, I guess, the right way. We both went to public education, nothing out of the ordinary. And we started realizing people just having sicknesses and health problems and cancers. And with my wife being a nurse, she was seeing it more prevalent. I was seeing it, of course, in my daily jobs. So when we got to a point after about 2 or 3 years of our marriage, we had our first son, and now we have 6 kids. But we just realized that we wanted something different. We didn't want to be like everyone else. So we were living in town. We built this little garden, tiny little house. I mean, right now you would call it a tiny home, but it was just really just a small house. We were just getting by. We were trying to figure out what we were going to do because we knew we wanted her home. We knew we wanted to have kind of a homeschooling feel. We wanted a homesteading feel, but really didn't know how that was going to happen. So we kind of moved around. We found another home, a little bit bigger, a little bit more space. We had 2 more children, and we started this journey of just building bigger gardens, trying to be more sustainable. We're raising chickens and raising smaller animals, and we got to a point where we said, okay, it's time to bite off a little bit more. So we decided to build, and when we started to build, this was about it was about 12 years ago now. Um, we kind of took a leap of faith and bought a piece of property. It was just a old, really junk land. It was almost close to a swamps where we're at now, and we didn't have a home spot, nothing. It was just raw timber, raw wood, old cutover that's just been grown back up for about 15 years. And at this time, we had 4 kids, and a fifth was on the way. So we knew Misty at this point was working part time. I was still working full time. And people always told me when you have cows, that's one thing. Beef cows are one thing, but when you have dairy cows, you're going to be married to your farm. You'll be married to your home. You are crazy for doing it, but just remember, if you buy a milk cow, you're there every day. There's nothing you can do different. Everybody told me not to do it, but I said, you know what? If we're going to do this thing and we're going to try to clean up our diet and try to make better decisions, we need to take the next step of not only meat sustainability, not only vegetables, but let's incorporate dairy, which is going to throw a whole wide array of things. But we knew that was going to be a major undertaking, so we went on and bought a few dairy cows and jumped off in it. And then we knew we had, milk and butter and cheese, but then we still had our gardens that were growing and we were getting on bigger. Well, at this time, we were learning a lot from Joel Salatin. We were learning a lot from other people that were doing homesteading that could show us, how to do this. So we went to Polyface, we went to a few other farms and just toured how they did regenerative farming. So we started really diving in deep, reading books, learning everything we could about regenerative ag, and making sure we understand what fertilizer is, how to actually grow fertilizer, how to actually compost, how to actually build a farm that we could live off of. And so that's what we're doing today. We've been doing it for about 12 years, as in true homesteading. We raise everything on farm. Now, of course, we still go to the grocery and things like that, but all our meat from lamb to beef to, of course, our dairy. but chickens. I mean, we raise it all. Hogs. We raise a lot of pork. So we raise a lot of food, and all our meat is fully sustainable. Our gardens are fully sustainable, and we're growing probably last time I checked, it was about 12 to 15,000 square foot of home gardens. And then of course our bees, and so we're really trying to do it big, I guess. So we knew we bit off a lot, so now we know we're married to it, and it was kind of for us. It was okay stewardship because God gave us this land, sustainability because we wanted sustainability, and that goes back to the stewardship issue. And then we know we wanted satisfaction for what God was giving us. So we were getting all this great food that was actually healing our bodies instead of causing harm, like we were seeing a lot of people go through with cancers and things like that.
Yeah, well, and when you have 6 kids, you kind of have to, you don't have a choice. You have to go big. I mean, that's the way it
Yeah.
works, you know. Um,
Nature sacrifices. I mean, when my mom when Misty came home, I mean, just being real, I mean, that's a financial hardship because she was losing at that time like a $40,000 job to come home. But it was like, this is worth it. Our kids are worth it. Our family's worth it. The world would tell us it's not worth it, but what we want to do with stewardship and sustainability, it is. And man, it's like everything fell right in place. She, of course, keeps her nursing degree up, but she hasn't actually had to practice any. God's taking care of us, and we've been great.
that's great. So how long has she been stay at home?
She's been at home. Actually, she's been at home for really almost 12 years, the same amount of time. It's like when we bit off homesteading and actually said, "Okay, we're doing this," that was pretty much it. She did some part-time things and they kinda fill in, but, we pretty much when we said, "Okay, it's done, let's do it," and so that's what we did.
And so that required some sacrifice and whatnot. But now you're 10, 12 years removed. I mean, but I don't know if you know this or not, but like there's hyperinflation going on and things are getting more and more expensive. And
Yeah,
your wife, and you have 6 kids, and we all know, if you listen to the news and the media, like children are very expensive,
right.
and you can't survive on a single income. So you've been defying the odds now for a decade. What's that
Yeah,
been
man.
like, defying the
It's
odds?
been it's been crazy because people look at our lifestyle, and don't get me wrong, some people now have seen it and said, "Okay, you're doing something right," but for the longest, everybody thought we were crazy. Not just raising chickens, but having the sustainable gardens, not using your, conventional fertilizers to grow food, doing this regenerative ag thing. Even though Mississippi is very rural, we have a lot of country folks here that raise gardens. Regenerative agriculture and the way people did the olden ways have just been lost generations ago. So we would go in the Midwest and we would go in the Northeast and some of these areas towards Polyface and even in Ohio and all that area and in the Amish villages where people didn't lose a lot of that knowledge. But in South Mississippi, people thought we were crazy. No one milks a cow around here. Now there's two or three. We've influenced a few people around in our community, but there was just not a lot of people doing what we were doing, especially when we were saying, "Okay, we're not gonna use conventional fertilizer. I want organics. I want non-GMO seeds." And it's like, "What? What does that even mean?" I mean, that's what we were hearing. So, it was a lot of, trial by fire because a lot of people said, "We'll never make it. Why are you trying to buy this feed from this place sent from, 500 miles away? Why don't you just buy it from the local co-op? Yeah, it's GMO. Yeah, we don't know what's in it, but just buy it," because that's what everybody does. So now that we're doing this and we've been doing this and Misty's been home and we've been homeschooling, we've started impacting people because now we do farm tours. Now we show people that you can do this life. Yes, it does take sacrifice. We're home. I mean, like for instance, with us going to Oklahoma for the expo, I have to find milkers, I have to find farm sitters. It's a
Mhm.
big undertaking because we have a big farm. However, it's one of those things that it's worth it for us. It is a chore to leave our farm, but we know that it's worth the hard days. I mean, Misty, like for instance, right now she's in the greenhouse doing some planting. As soon as I get done with here, I'm gonna go move some cows. It's life. That's kind of how we do it, and our kids are used to that now. So it's been a big part of who we are. So it's not like we've decided to make a hobby out of homesteading. It's we just live this lifestyle, and people call it homesteading, but truly it's just life for us. On the income side, we just said, "You know what? We're gonna push through. I'm gonna work," and of course, I have a job in town and still to this day have the same job, but I knew we were gonna do side hustles. We were gonna do whatever it took to make it because we wanted this life. We wanted the sacrifice. I wanted Misty home. So we just said, you know what? If it's selling soap or if it's me working a side job or if it's jumping on other avenues, we're going to do it. And that's exactly what we've done. It's been great. It's been a fun journey. YouTube kind of started that way as a side hustle. And so now it's just been a wonderful experience.
It's interesting how you mentioned that the old ways of agriculture,
Mhm.
sustainable, regenerative, holistic management, whatever terminology you want to use for it, you
Right.
said how that's been forgotten. It's very interesting in direct correspondence to that, that the nuclear family, single
Mhm.
income,
Yeah.
stay at home, a keeper of the house, that keeps the home and manages the economics. They used to, in government schools, they used to have a class called home economics.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating how at one point in time there was like a whole class on that, and now it's not even necessary for a functioning
No.
society. It's completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
And another thing that we saw, my wife has been home
Mhm.
for a while now, since before we strategically relocated to Texas. But uh, before that, I was a financial planner, and
Yeah.
for 11 years, and we would always do income and financial analysis. And every married couple that we ever ran a financial analysis on, we could always illustrate that they would actually have more money and save more money if the
Mhm.
husband worked and the wife stayed at home and handled all the responsibilities there, because you wouldn't need two vehicles, you wouldn't need the extra insurance,
Right.
you wouldn't need the extra lunch money, you wouldn't need the daycare, you wouldn't need the school, and it's so fascinating how that entire way of life, and now we're reaping the consequences, the fruit of
Dramatically.
this
Yeah.
postmodern deconstructionism and this entire eugenics agenda to destroy our monetary system, remove the gold back standard so that everything's lost to hyperinflation, uh, basically forcing both um, man and woman into the workforce so that you have two people paying taxes now, and you're in
Right.
a higher tax bracket, so you're paying a larger percentage. And this was all part of, so basically what you did is similar to what we did, is you literally just turn the clock back, relatively speaking, 100 years, and in a
Yeah.
real way you're living a lifestyle that was the norm 100 years
The
ago. It
norm.
was,
That's
yeah,
right.
it
It was
was
just the norm.
party. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's and how satisfying and fulfilling that is,
Yeah.
and the cool part of it is you are the weirdo.
Right.
I've always embraced that weirdo role. Like W. Clement Stone said, observe the masses and do the opposite. And
Right.
that's been a moniker of mine, and I've taught my children that. But so you have six kids, we have six kids. How what's the age ranges?
So our age ranges are from the oldest one is fixing to be 16 all the way down to 3. So we've got
Okay,
them from one that's fixing to graduate and one's fixing to start, pre-K. So
that's
we always said
great.
we didn't want to be those people, but we are those people.
Oh,
So my
you're
wife
all
is literally going to graduate one at the same time, one starting, pre-K. So it's going to be fun time. So, but they go from all range. I have 2 boys and 4 girls. Again, they've kind of grown up. My 2 oldest especially my oldest, he saw a little of our life in town and how that worked. But pretty much all our children have grown up on this farm or close to this farm in proximity, so they kind of known in his life. Like you were talking about with the nuclear family and just the breakdown of it, it starts slow. And what I've realized is most people that they have 2 parents work out of the home. I'm not decreasing that value of that at all. But what I'm saying is, it seemed like more people were happier when they lived a more simple lifestyle, and more people were fulfilled even when they were not making the incomes of 2 incomes and having the nicest cars. What we realized is the sacrifices sometimes were worth it, not just for the family, but just less stress in the home. So even though we may see families do well having a mom and dad that work out of the home and their kids in public education, they make him work. But to me, you have to work harder at trying to make sure your children are getting morals and values at the same time, great education, versus just saying, you know what, let's just do it. It's always worked. Why don't we allow homeschooling to work? Why don't we allow, good discipline, but also work on a farm and learn good skills? Work, it works. It's worked
Yep.
for so long. Why all of a sudden, a few years ago, we decided to change that? A few generations ago, we changed it, and then now we're wondering what happened. Well, if we just go back to where we were, we realize we had it right then. Yes, innovation's great. Yes, technology's great. But the breakdown of the family did not need to happen for those innovations to take place.
Exactly. And I think, and everybody has a different personality.
Yeah.
I think we don't have to make excuses or try to be pragmatic or gentle about it in a way. I mean, I totally understand why we would and why we
Yep.
do, but I
Right.
think in order to one to encourage people and two like it, and that's what's neat. That's why we've tried to maintain our YouTube channel to the extent we
Yeah.
have. I mean, we're it's I'm preaching to the choir, but
Yeah.
uh I've wanted to keep it to continue to demonstrate that okay, and I'm not saying it's for everybody, but this is a
Yeah.
clearly defined way that absolutely works. The proof's in the pudding long term. What are your thoughts with homeschooling and living an agrarian lifestyle? How do you see that has influenced your children?
I think home education is threadbare. I cannot say anything bad about it. Um, One thing I've learned, even in I go to a very small church, but even in our church, as great of people that I go to church with, they have different views on things than I do. Not that it's wrong, but it's not my view. Now, again, these are my children, so I want to raise them in the best way I know how. So even in the setting of a smaller school or a Christian-based school or a little community school, not that that's wrong to some people, but to me, it's still not what was actually set up to me based on our family structure. Family
Yep.
structure, it was my wife being home and my children learning skills and leadership, of course, from us, morals and values from us, but education from us. So I think it's made our children um, better prepared and better equipped for the world that they're going to grow up in. Now, my kids, they can run cows and sheep and all that. That's all great. That's part of life. But they also can have manners. They can also have morals and values. My son, um, not only is he a great student, I mean he's doing great. He took his ACT, so it shows that he's competing in the same market that most people with public education have. However, he's had a better version of economics. He's had a better version of morals and values. He's had a better version of not a waste of time of school and education or indoctrination, but also saying this is what you need. He knows how to balance checkbooks. He understands how to live in this world. Not that
Yep.
algebra and all that's not great, but we have to realize life skills are more important than maybe just getting to the next college level. So what we've tried to instill in our children, we want to back them in whatever they do. But when they're able to be home and we can teach them on their levels and make sure they're getting just what they need, because we know them better than anyone. So if
Yeah.
some are slower than the others, some are more, it's going to excel better than the others. We know that more than anyone else does. So if we know that, then I believe we can tap their potential better than anyone else can. So that's kind of our thought pattern. If we can build them into the best humans they can be, they're not only going to be better humans to give back to the world, they're going to be more obligated to their families. They're going to realize a family structure and they're going to see something different than what the world is portraying as quote unquote good.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is you're demonstrating to them rather than just saying it, you're demonstrating to them what
Right.
is possible. Because the world says, "Oh, women need a career and a purpose and they need to go
Right.
out there and they can do anything a man can do and they need to
Right.
compete in the workforce and all these different things," when the sole concept of that whole fourth wave feminism and the deconstruction of womanhood
Yeah.
and the deconstruction of the nuclear family is for the sole purpose of to give us 2024 a read version and a redux of 1984. And
Right.
that's this postmodern world we're living in. And I think it's really neat and exciting seeing what y'all are doing with how many kids. And you probably still get like, oh, you got 6 kids. Well, you know what causes that, right? Y'all need a
Yeah.
TV.
Oh man, yeah. We're still very unique because a lot of people don't have big families like we do. So even in again rural America, if you see anyone with over 4 kids in our area, they're crazy, quote unquote crazy. So for us to have
Yeah.
6, it kind of blows people's mind. And then of course the homeschool blows people's mind. And then you throw the level of, milk a cow at 4 a.m. in the morning. Milk 2 cows at 4 a.m. It just blows people's mind that we live this way. But I think the more and more people see it and see that it's a lifestyle that is attainable, the more people are realizing, it may actually work. This may be what we need. Not, we need a revival back to where we were compared to some new reset of where we're going because it's
Yeah.
not getting us anywhere. I mean, what have we really learned over the last 20 or 30 years? My
Mm.
wife would tell you her best accomplishment, greatest accomplishment, of course, is her relationship with Christ, but her being a wife and her being a mother. I mean, that's what she would say. It wouldn't be her nursing degree. That would be way on down the road. So she realizes that. And I think when you have a husband and wife that realize our places in our marriage, it's a big deal, a real big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah, it's awesome. So how many acres are y'all on?
We're actually on about 42 acres sits right here where our home is. We just bought an off-grid property that's a little bit further down the road from us, about another 15 or 20 acres there. But just on our homestead, it's 40 acres. We have a lake and then we have some pines. We homestead probably about 26, 27 acres of that, and the
Okay.
rest is some trees and some other land that we're not utilizing right now.
So how many critters and what kind of critters are you running?
So we raise for our fertilization and for small animals, we raise rabbits and we raise chickens, layers, and some form of meat birds too. So we're raising smaller animals. Those are the ones that's giving us our fertilization, but also as a meat source and provides some income with eggs and with bunnies and things like that. Then we have dairy cows and beef cows. We run a set of Herefords beef cows. We love them. They've been a great breed for us. Very good for our lands. We have 2 Jersey mamas and also a Holstein mama that we're milking. So we milk those 3 cows. We have some Katahdin sheep. So we just had ewes, but we have about 7 of those. We have 1 ram, and we just had some new little lambs, all used, which was great. We've got some bee apiaries. We have hogs. Hogs are probably one of our biggest staples here. We raise about 4 or 5 litters a year. We're raising American Guinea hog for lard hogs, and then we're raising a commercial breed such as American Berkshire or Yorkshire. Both of those we're raising. So we're raising a whole mess load of those, and we're trying to process all that on farm as we go too. So far, it's been great. I love we're able to deer hunt on our property. We're able, of course, to fish on our property. So we also have the wild game. It's a big part of it. It's fun for the kids. So it's fun, man. We're having a blast doing it.
So with all those critters and a day job off farm, and I obviously Misty's doing a lot of lifting there on the farm as well.
Right.
How possible do you think the current farm and the way that it's functioning, how possible do you think it would be for y'all to have that without the children participating?
We're participating some, but we actually built it to a point where it would not consume their life or consume our life. So everything that we've done, we've tried to be as good with it as possible. So, for instance, where my sheep go, they tend to work and rotate around the pond, so I'm not having to bush hog around the pond. They tend to go into the pond, so I don't have to bush hog and do work under the ponds. My cattle, they were rotating them heavy, so we're not having to take a whole day or two to treat them or do any kind of testing to them. Our chickens are working our gardens. So we're allowing our animals not to just be a part of the farm, but to actually work the farm. So that's a big thing. Our bees, of course, we plant a lot of for pollination and things like that. The kids do contribute, but we don't want it to be a burden to a point where they learn to hate it. We want it to be a lifestyle. They understand it. Actually, just a second ago, one of my kids were going out to. We had a little lamb that didn't take to its mama, so They were bottle feeding it so they can enjoy that part of the farm. We don't want to ever make it look like they're having to, get up at 4 a.m. with me every day and go to bed at 10 o'clock every night, but they are a part of it. It is attainable. Now, I'm a workaholic. I'm not going to lie. I probably to my, demise, but I usually can get up and do 2 or 3 hours worth of farm work prior to me going. I usually take off a day a week, and then and then after in the afternoons, I come home and move hay and those kind of things. So we maintain it. Misty does a lot with the gardens, and then we work together on the day off that I'm there. If it's heavy lifting, of course, my son can handle any animal on the farm. My girls collect eggs, so they're a part of it, but it's
Mhm.
not unattainable. I think I would tell someone if they're getting into it, don't bite off more than you can chew. Let it be incremental steps. I don't want to take the elevator to the top. I want to take the stairs to the top so that way we see where we're going, we see where we're coming from, but we can learn from every step of the way. And so that's what we've kind of done. We didn't want to bite off more than we could chew. We incrementally got bigger, and that helped us not be overwhelmed with too much. Now, again, you could probably say it's too much for sure, but it's attainable, and we can do it, and we love it. We actually the only thing that we've kind of weeded off farm is things like turkeys and ducks. We've learned that they're beautiful, we love them, but they're for their value, they're not worth it. So there's things that we've learned and we've made mistakes with in the gardening and with animals, but ultimately to say, "I want a homesteader take 1%, 10%, 15, 25%, 100% of your food," you can do it. It just depends on you taking slow, steady steps to get there.
So how many head do you have?
I've got um I've got 20 about 21 head here. We lease a little property and have about 5 head over there too, but we have
Okay.
21 head here, and then the dairy, I have a little dairy bull, and then the dairy mama. So I'll probably have another five dairy cow here. So I have about 30 here. Most of those are mama cows. I have two bulls and a few steer. But we're at all times we're trying to we don't separate our bull. We want to make sure our bull is dropping all throughout the year, or basically breeding all throughout the year, because the way that we want to have our meat sustainable, I don't want to have them all at one time. So
Right.
we don't ever pull our bull out unless there's a reason. But pretty much our bull is with our mamas at all times. So I'm dropping babies throughout the year. Now, I know a lot of people don't like that, but for me being sustainable and having a farm and growing meat slowly because we're not putting them in a feedlot, I need steers and need cows producing all throughout the year and not just dropping at one time. Because I'm not going to fill up 100, 100 pounds here, 100, and do 3,000, 4,000 pounds worth of beef at one time. I'd rather have 1,000 here, 1,000 here, 1,000 here, and go throughout the year. So that way it makes sure that my meat is going along. And when it's on hoof, walking out in the pasture, it's not costing me to put it in the freezer, or not costing me to put it on the shelf. It's literally just walking around, and when we need it, it's there for us.
Speaking of that, is feeding the cows. Do you ever have to bring in hay?
We have at least three different places that we cut hay on. None of them are fertilized, so we that's been hard for us to find. But every bit of our hay fields are non-sprayed, non-herbicide, non-fertilized. Most people would consider it junk hay, or crap
Mhm.
hay, but for us, it's exactly what we want. So we if even in the droughts, we find low areas, places that people don't want, because we want that grass growing naturally. And so far, it's been great. We've never ran out of hay. We've never had to buy from any provider other than the ones that we're already getting from. Some is close to me. I cut some of our fields here for hay, but then I have two other fields that we contract out and have leased for years. And so far, that relationship's worked out really good. He wants it cut, so he could care less,
Yeah.
and he doesn't want it sprayed either. So it works out in a very good way that I can have unsprayed,
Oh, that
unherbicide
is
hay, and it's
that's
pure
huge.
natural. So
Because that's always our challenge. We're probably going to switch to Herefords. We had Longhorn,
yeah,
and we wanted to have a fattier meat, so we started switching
yeah.
over. And we have a low line Hereford bull, and he's got some killer
Mhm.
genetics. And we're probably going to end up switching to Herefords. We keep going back and forth and been doing a lot of research. But our
We love them.
the biggest catch is always the hay, like, and being able to source it and stack it. And because we're looking for the same thing. We don't want it to be either Roundup or Gray Zone or whatever. And
Right.
that's always our challenge. That's an incredible blessing to have those
Yes.
resources because it enables you to run more head, you know, and
It does.
rather.
We can get our fields. I share it with a family member of mine, but we're usually getting around 150 to 200 bales off one field, and then we're getting another 20 or 30 on another. So it's everything that we're needing. Even in this drought this last year, we lost about 30 bales basically when it all came down to it, but still had plenty of hay. I mean, we probably have about 15 going into the spring right now, so we're okay. We're doing great. And it was a blessing because we were sweating it a little bit this last year because we had I mean, we lost pine. I mean, we've lost major thickets of pine. So we lost the first cutting. Really, we didn't get a true first cutting. So our second cutting became just one cut. I mean, that's it. So we didn't have a true first cutting and a second cutting. We just had one main cutting, and of course, didn't get a third. So we got what we could, and it actually still prevailed. It's great.
That's great. So, okay, so you've been on YouTube and you know, you guys speak at events and different things and you
Yeah.
do farm tours. So, have you developed any local community there between your church, your YouTube channel, and your farm? Have you developed any like a local network there that's, you know, within 30 miles of your property?
Yes, I would love to have a better community when it comes to homesteading. Like I see the North Carolina group and the Florida group, and I see like the Oklahoma group that we're going to. It seems like they have really core, strong people and good community friends. Here we're developing that. I don't know if you know the YouTubers, but Alderman Farms is small. They don't really post as much anymore as they used to. There's another guy that posts called Anthony Battaglia. He lives close. Deep South is not far from us. They're about 2.5 hours. So
Oh,
we have a community, but it's a smaller community. We don't have a big group. Now, like for instance, what we're doing, because we picked up the Azure Standard Order and it comes right here, and we really tried to help push that because we're doing a co-op with feed now. So I'm going and I'm hauling, 25 to 30,000 pounds of feed, and I'm trying to get people to understand the importance of non-GMO and organics. So I've gotten, 15 or 20 people that are starting to buy with us so we can buy a bigger order, co-op it almost like an Azure Standard. So that's been really cool there. We've done the same thing with different parts. I mean, like for instance, we did a seed swap at the local library the other day, something we've never done. But Misty said, "Look, we're going to do a ladies' luncheon and do a seed swap to let people understand, hey, we can do this. You can do this. There's other people in the community that want to learn." So that's what we've kind of done. There's a nursery here that's kind of backed us. So we go in and we do little live events there. We'll do teaching preserving or teaching bees or teaching, anything that would get people interested in some part of this life. Now you don't have to milk a cow every morning if you don't want to, but you can do a raised bed garden, and raise some of your food. So it helps us say, you may not want to go to the extent that we're going to, but please do something. And so, for instance, we had master gardeners is a big deal here where they grow camellias and big flowers. As part of
mhm.
Mississippi State University, they do a big extension service here where it's about just kind of flowers and the prettiness of trees. So they kind of contacted us one day and we told them that, we don't, I mean, trees are pretty and flowers are pretty, but other than pollination, we don't really use them. But I said, there's some things you could do with flowers. There's some things you can do with herbal remedies. There's some things that you can learn, and we would love to host you. So we had like, 100 master gardeners show up, and these guys know what they're doing. I mean, they're gardeners. They know, but they know one way. And here we are, using manure from animals and and regenerative ag. So it opened their eyes. And so from that, we built all these relationships with these gardeners who were completely conventional using, Osmocote and triple 13 and learning how to do just flowered bulbs to understanding, well, this daylily can do more than that. This onion bulb can do more than that. This
Yeah, that's
regenerative way of doing this can do more than that. So it's kind of cool because these are some older people saying, wow, I remember that when I was a kid and we've tried to run from this life and also now we see people going back to it and it makes them almost nostalgic and so we talk about old stories and so it helps them say, you know what, I want something different for my life at 60 years old or 70 years old, something I should have kept on going and I didn't. So it's been good. We've built that community. It's been hard because it's a very conventional style
mhm.
community. Sanderson Farms has a big presence here, not
Yep.
right around my house, but in this area. It's from Mississippi. Um, the pine industry, cattle industry, Angus beef, all around here. They have a big operation here. So it's one of those things where here we are, we're coming in with a total different view of everything. So it's been unique, I guess you could say, because we've brought a different view to how to do things.
Well, I really appreciate your time. Maybe you could tell everybody where they could find you. Where can they find your information, Kobe?
Yeah, man. So we have the Max, which is our YouTube channel. That's our main YouTube channel. A lot of that's on prepping, on current events. We talk a little homesteading. Then we have our secondary channel, the Max Life. That's where my wife and the kids are a little bit more. It's a smaller channel we started, and it talks a little bit more about the gardening side and the homesteading side. So we have two channels that kind of coexist. The Max channel has had some hiccups and fun times on YouTube, of course, but
Mhm.
that's where most people will find us at. I mean, we have a Twitter handle, the Colby Mag, but I don't do too much on Twitter. Mostly it's just YouTube. So
Great. So, as we wrap up, is there any final words or final thoughts that you want to leave with the listener?
I want people to realize that they can do it. You know, I have a lot of friends who have they're full-time homesteaders, and so what people will come in and say, well, I can't garden, or I can't homestead, or I can't do go market gardens because I have to work and provide for our family. So we want to try to say, don't try to make an excuse. Just try to do what you can. So if you could just do 1% better, 10% better, please try to do that. If it's just raising eggs or just raising raised gardens, I had a elder couple out here yesterday, and they were looking at raised beds and how to develop raised beds. And here, a couple who's never grown anything in their life at 72 years old is trying to figure out how to grow tomatoes. That's encouraging because people are saying, you know what? We know our food system's broke, and
Yeah.
if we're not careful, then we're going to have that lost generation of just dependency on the government to provide our food. So what we've come in and said, look, I work a full-time job. We have 6 kids. We homestead, we homeschool. None of that's to show that we can do it and brag about it. It's to show that it can be done and accomplished. If you just put your will and heart to it, you can do it. So our thing is, again, stewardship, sustainability. Through that, we get satisfaction. And if we can teach those three things to everybody we run into in some form or way, we call that success.
I love it. That is awesome. And that's why I wanted to have you on. You guys
Yeah,
are the
man.
real deal. You're doing it in real time. And just like you said, I think we need to illustrate what is possible. And
Absolutely.
you do it a little bit at a time. I mean, we've been doing it for 10 years now, and we didn't do it all at once. It didn't happen overnight. There's been
Right.
lots of try, fail, and adjust all along the way, but we are daily getting closer to our goal. And me and you and our families are doing what the mainstream lamestream would literally say not only is impossible, but obviously there has to be this, that, or the other. And so
Yeah.
we want to continue to demonstrate that, just to encourage people, to show them
Yep.
what is possible. I mean, that was one thing that used to be admired in America, is what is possible. And with the liberty and freedoms, even as they wane, utilizing those liberties and freedoms to create what is possible, and then to inspire and encourage other people to do the same or do it bigger, better,
Right.
greater, and all these different things. And so that's our aim. Man, we really appreciate you guys. We appreciate you
Yeah, man.
investing your time here, and hope y'all go on over and check out the Max. They're awesome people. They're legit. Y'all are going to be at the Okie Homestead meetup.
We are. We're going to be speaking twice there. We actually have loved being there. It's been great. It's always hard taking your whole farm and making sure it's taken care of as we go, but we always enjoy spending time with Sean and the guys up there with Keeping It Dutch, and just spending time with those guys because we don't have that community like we were talking. So to have the camaraderies that we have, I get to speak with those. They've become lifelong friends. So it's been really fun to go up there and share some time with them and the Okie homesteading. And I know you've been there. It's really been impressive. It's they've done it really well. We've been to a lot of conferences, and to me, um, compared to even Homesteaders of America, compared to a Florida conference we used to go to in Alabama, I just think Okie Homestead, and even though I wish they were better, closer, it's just a good event. They do a very good job to teach people that you can do just a little bit or you can go all in, and every bit of it's gonna benefit you and your family.
What's the date of the Okie Homestead meetup?
It's actually have it right here in front of me. It is gonna be Friday, next Friday, which is the 22nd and 23rd. So we've gotta go up the day before, and get ready for it and put a booth out. We'll be there, and we're gonna have some soap and shirts and like that stuff to sell, but then we're gonna be speaking on Friday and Saturday, and, we'd love to meet whomever is gonna be there.
Great. I don't know if we're going to be able to make it or not, but yeah, it's incredibly professional. I was very
It
impressed.
is.
I like everything that Sean has done, man. Sean's a great
They've
guy.
done a good job. They really
Yeah,
have.
it's excellent, and it's very nice facility,
It
and
is.
tons of real quality knowledge, great speakers, really good stuff.
Mhm.
And yeah, and if we get, I'm trying to think of our schedule, but maybe we'll see up there.
Yeah, man, come on up, see us, and we'll spend some time together.
All right, y'all. Well, in closing, I just want to remind you of one thing. Stay fearless, my friends.
Yeah.